Hey, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of
Hey Yo
Radio, where we normally would be picking apart the NXT and main roster runs of former NXT talents. However, due to my crazy household and a lack of time to properly prepare for this week's Bayley episode, as you may have noticed with the opening tune from Primetime Wrestling, we're taking this one old school this week. My name is Marc Scott. I'm joined by Scott Tyson. What's going on, Scott? How you doing this week?
I'm doing good, Mark, and I just want to say I'm saving. That's what I'm talking about for the Bayley episode. You will not hear it anymore tonight. We're saving that.
Okay, so as I explained, we're going old school. We're going to be talking about this week, about the current goings-on in professional wrestling. I apologize to anyone expecting the Bayley episode this week, but I promise she'll be the topic du jour next week. So with that out of the way, what did you want to hit on first this week?
Well, we didn't get the opportunity to take a look at Extreme Rules, the horror show at Extreme Rules. I'm sorry, let me correct myself. I do not want to not give it its due. But we didn't get a chance to weigh in on that, and I wanted to talk just a couple of matches that were on it. Probably the one that's bothered me the most, troubled me in my dreams, mainly because of the logical ridiculousness involved, would be the...
there was a lot of that.
I know, I wasn't really setting that up well. Let's start with Rey Mysterio, Seth Rollins. Loser loses an eye for an eye match, if you will.
Okay.
I did a little research, culled through my memory a little bit, and I took some notes here, Mark. I'm going to read a few things to us as we go.
Love to hear them.
There was a wrestler in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and actually competed into the 90s in Japan in some of the death matches, known as the Sheik, the original Sheik, not the Iron Sheik. No one's being humbled just yet. But there was the Sheik who ran the Detroit territory, Ed Farhat, famous for throwing fireballs in people's faces. Okay, so not unheard of to mess up someone's face. There's an empty arena match in Memphis between Jerry Lawler and Terry Funk, where Terry Funk is in the ring screaming, "My eye, my eye." I can accept that. Things happen in a match. There's logical flow to that. Click to mid-WWF back in the mid-'80s. The U.S. Express, Barry Windham, Mike Rotunda, defending their tag titles against Nikolai Volkov and the Iron Sheik with Classy Freddie Blassie. Don't know when I'll get to use him again, but we're going for it. The end of the match, I hate to spoil this, but it's been 25 years. Blassie rubs a lit cigar in Barry Windham's eye, allows Volkov to get the pin on him and win the tag titles. You can do an eye angle effectively. Stan Hansen wrestled Big Van Vader in New Japan in the late 80s, early 90s. And that one truly messed up his orbital bone. I mean, you can see it, his eye bulging out. Things happen. We know The Undertaker had an issue with his orbital bone as well. These are all legitimate issues. They're things either did happen or I can suspend my disbelief.
Are you telling me that WWE didn't handle this properly?
Having said that, I gave you a bunch of examples of things that are believable within storyline confines. But I want to take you back to a quote from Vincent Kennedy McMahon just a few years ago. He said something to the similar to, they do not do murder. They certainly do not show these kinds of things on their programming. In fact, they called out AEW for being bloodthirsty, barbarian-like, barbaric.
They did. Indeed.
And so here we are at the horror show, at Extreme Rules, and we're booking a match where the only way to win is to physically remove someone's eye. Make no mistake about it, I thought the wrestling was really good. I love Seth Rollins' work. Rey Mysterio, man, he was on his game. I mean, for his age and what he's been through to be able to do what he was doing, I was loving it.
What I've seen from Mysterio since his return has been very good. Mm-hmm.
He's been very motivated. He's been healthy. He had some spring in his legs. It looked good. But at the end, to complete the stipulation, you have to, quote unquote, rip someone's eye out. I never actually saw that happen. I saw
clearly Seth did.
Apparently so, and apparently decided that oatmeal was the dinner of choice before that match.
Well, who doesn't eat a bowl of oatmeal before going out to wrestle a match?
I don't know. But I'm just, it just hurts my head. I like a little logic in my wrestling. I know that makes me a little bit weird. But it was beyond cringeworthy. It was just like, why am I wasting my time? That was my reaction. Now, if you do an angle where someone's eye gets hurt, I have no problem with that. That's wrestling. That's just
Mhm.
how it works. But to purposely go into a match and say we're going to commit a felony on the WWE Network, we want you to watch. Think about it. That's what you're asking people to believe. You're going to get to watch a felony live on the WWE Network, where you're going to commit attempted murder on another performer, and we're going to let you do it. We're encouraging you. The only way to stop the fight is to do that.
And here's the thing about it. You can say like, "Oh, Seth removed his eye." Okay, where was the blood? I don't
Yep.
know about you, but I didn't see any blood there.
I'm not a
There's
big
no
horror
puddle
movie.
of blood on the floor.
Nope.
Nothing.
No
How do you
splurting, no
lose an
nothing.
eye without losing any blood?
Well, the WWE is a very sanitized situation, so I guess anything is possible. But it just made no sense, and I checked with my kids to see how they liked it, and they got the thumbs down on that when they thought it was pretty ridiculous. So if you can't get the kids who apparently you're writing for to like it, I don't know what you're going to do. But and just to transition real quick, they turn around and do the same angle. What 2 weeks later on Monday Night Raw with
Have they
Aleister
really?
Black? They have, and this time they had
So
Buddy Murphy do the deed rather than
so
Seth
Aleister
Rollins.
Black's lost an eye now.
His eye has been damaged. I assume that's going to be a repackaging for his new character. But
Oh, because
ser-
that's a guy that needs a new character. He's not cool enough as it is.
one of the discussions behind the scenes has been that Vince McMahon just doesn't think his character will work long term. They're trying to do tweaks and such to it. I don't know that losing an eye is the tweak I was going for. But yeah. It's bad enough to do it once. Now you did it the second time.
He should be he should be a pirate.
Oh, no. We can't do that. We did that once, and you didn't understand that, Vince. You don't remember?
Pirates steal stuff like jackets.
Or eyes, apparently. I don't know. So yeah, that was not a good night for me with that. Let's talk really quickly about the United States Championship.
It looks
Which,
nice. It's pretty.
you know what? It is nice. It looks pretty. You have Apollo Crews, who is the United States champion,
I
but
don't
he was
I believe that, but okay.
well. We're getting to that actually.
Yeah.
But he was defending the title against MVP. But apparently on commentary, we were led to believe that Cruz could not compete after he failed a quote pre-match physical because of what Bobby Lashley had done to him previously, and that's a little redundant. I apologize for that. MVP comes out and basically declared himself the champion by forfeit. And I don't know how the belt got out there, but Lashley handed the belt to MVP, and congratulations, there's your title change.
Sounds like it's on the level to me.
But again, you're
You
forcing.
you disagree
Well,
with that?
so we're going to do a lot of old school discussing tonight. The NWA rule always was no title changes hands on a DQ. WWF, same rule. Most organizations did. World Class kind of did that little screwy thing in the mid 80s or late 80s of, oh, the titles can change hands on a disqualification. They also changed hands on picking a card from a card deck once too. Go find it on YouTube, kids. It's out there.
Dance offs.
It worked for Emma. You can go listen to that episode in our archives. There's no championship being won or lost or being declared. It's just, hey, here's the belt. I'm the champ. So in other words, I've got to watch the show tomorrow night to see, is he really the champ? I don't know what the point was. How are you going to get Apollo Crews over if he can't even be man enough to come out and fight? Even if you're injured, come out, fight. Show your heart, show your fighting spirit, as New Japan Pro Wrestling would do. And,
Even if you're going to lose, be a babyface and lose.
yeah. Yes, because if you lose, the announcers have already given you the reason. He's been attacked in the back, he's injured, he's hurt.
Put him over as the guy who, against all odds came out and he fought the good fight.
Right, and then there's no shame in losing MVP because he was just picking the bones, so to speak, of the champion. But no, we couldn't do that. We needed to tune in the next night on Monday Night Raw to see what really was going to happen. And there's a third match that I want to talk about, and that is Asuka defending her championship, the Raw Women's Championship, against Sasha Banks. Um, they put on a fantastic match. I thought I really really enjoyed their work. But towards the end of the match, the referee took an inadvertent missed to the eye. Now, Mark, we've been wrestling fans for a very long time. I know that the mist is supposed to blind you, but does it permanently incapacitate a recipient?
Permanently?
Well, I mean,
don't
to where in the
so.
next couple of minutes you can't get yourself together and make it count or see what's going on.
Well, normally after a mist, there aren't a next couple of minutes.
Well, I would think that would be an automatic DQ from my perspective. You know, again, it's like AEW says, rules matter. But again, there was no finish in this match. The referee was just rendered unable to compete. So apparently we have no other referees in the building. Because you and I both know in a title match, in the main event on a pay-per-view, how many ref bumps have we seen where another referee had to come out to count the pin or to officiate the match? Apparently WWE couldn't afford more than one. Even though there were several referees.
Well, that's clearly what Bayley was there for.
Well, clearly, that's what I'm talking about.
I mean, she was the backup referee.
And you know what? She did an excellent job. But again, unfortunately, I left the match not really knowing who won. And that's a real problem if you're trying to engage the fan base. You look at the ratings, and even for this week's ratings, the second lowest that they've had since they went to a 3-hour show. What the freak do you think is going to happen when you put this stuff on week after week after week after week after week? There is no change. There is no freshness to it. And now we can't even get real finishes. So why am I going to reinvest my time the next night or the next week? Because the numbers show us people do not watch SmackDown and Raw typically, both shows. They're picking one or the other, not both. So what's the investment of getting me to come back and watch the show? I don't know. I don't know. Why should I? You couldn't even give me a finish. Now, we've all seen cliffhangers, Mark, on TV shows. You know, one of my favorite cliffhangers of all time, and I hope you'll appreciate this as well, The Best of Both Worlds, Star Trek The Next Generation, end of season 3, with the music, boom, boom, in the background. It fades to black as they're about to fire on the Borg ship with Picard as Locutus. And all you hear is Mr. Worf fire. Now, I admit I'm a huge Star Trek nerd, or just a nerd in general, or just huge. I don't know. It's one of those. But I still remember that because it was a great cliffhanger. You know, my parents' generation was Who Shot JR? I didn't see it.
I remember that.
But I know of it. I knew I was a kid. I knew, you know, these things are going on. So there's all these cliffhangers that work really well. Bring it more modern. Avengers. Infinity War. Okay.
Oh my God.
Dude.
The way Infinity War ends is just you walked out of the theater and it's just like you just felt bad.
You did, because you know what? The bad guy won. It made you want to come back and see, is there any hope? Now look.
And you know that's not the end of it, but still it's just like, you know, you see all the people that they've been building up over the last few years in all these movies just turning to dust. It's just like, oh,
you know what? It does. They had a plan of where they were going. They knew people were going to leave angry, which would make them want to come back to see Thanos get his comeuppance, right? Which, strangely enough, 5 minutes into the movie, he did. But if you haven't seen it, go watch the movie. It'll make more sense. But
that's the problem. It didn't fix anything.
It made Thor feel better, and apparently that's what it was. I don't know if it did or didn't. It felt like he did. He went for the head this time. Okay, you should have gone for the head. These are words to live by. Those kind of things are really cool, man. That's the stuff that keeps you coming back and saying, I want more of that until I get the conclusion of the story. We're not seeing that in WWE booking. It's like, let's do half the story. We're not really sure where it's going to go. At least it doesn't appear that they do. And then we'll explain it as we figure it out. That's not how franchises work. That's not how stories are done. You remember, if you've ever heard Bruce Pritchard's podcast, and Mark, I know you're a fan, Something to Wrestle With, they talk about booking WrestleMania backwards. It's a ridiculous concept looking at how they do it today, but they're metrics and measurements we want to hit. But we're not even seeing finishes. Now, look, I've been a wrestling fan for a long time. We've seen non-finishes plenty of times, right?
But they lead to something.
And the first one that pops in my
finishes.
mind is, you remember Undertaker Kane, Stone Cold the referee, counts the pin on both of them,
Sure.
and he gets fired for it. You know what? I wanted to see what happened next. It was a schmoz, but darn, it was entertaining. I need to see where this goes.
Mhm.
Coming out of this pay-per-view, coming out of these matches, did you need to see what happened next?
Of course. Who doesn't?
You're a good man, Mark. You really truly are. But again, no title changed hands. There was no.
Yeah, I wanted to know what happened to Asuka's title. That's why I didn't tune in on Monday.
Well, thank goodness the level-headed McMahon would appear on the Monday Night Raw the next night and get that addressed and straightened out. And by the way, am I the only one? And I know I'm all over the place tonight, but I've missed talking to you this week. Am I the only one who's a little concerned that you won the championship by countout? You couldn't win it in the ring with a submission or a pinfall. Even if you cheat, I don't care. That's what heels do.
Sure.
But wouldn't it looked better on the champion to win in the middle of the ring? I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy like that. But that's another match that I wanted to talk about. And there's still one more, and that is the Swamp match.
Where Braun fought himself.
I don't know if he's the champion. Did he pin himself? Is that a title change? If this were DDT Japan,
was the title on the line in the Swamp? There was no referee.
I would think that it would be, and this would have been a great tie-in to have like Swamp Thing down there. Maybe have a DC Comics tie-in. That would have been extremely cool, but they couldn't do that. I worry because they're beginning to put more and more emphasis on the cinematic, and whereas every once in a while I can deal with it. Thank God AJ came back from the dead. I'll never forget that.
Yeah.
But it's becoming more.
Plenty of people have come back from the dead.
That's true.
Undertaker's done it numerous times.
But he was already dead, so did he really come back from the dead? I'm just asking for a friend. He is the dead man. What are we supposed to do with this? There's no finish. I now count 1, 2, 3 matches with no finish, and one where someone had a felony assault committed on them. Again, I get what they're going for, but here's the problem. How are you going to rein it back in if and when you actually get people back into the arena? This is fine for if you're a TV product. If you're not running shows, that's great. And you're just a TV product, this would work for you. I wouldn't complain.
Time being, that's what they are, unfortunately, but yeah.
But that's not the goal going forward. The goal going forward, God willing, is the world to come back in some semblance of normalcy. If that happens, how do you expect it to have the fan base that involved, that interested? This is what you give me? They come through where I live outside of Raleigh several times a year, typically. I'm not beating down the door to go see the house show because
here.
House shows, man, you get longer matches. It's a lot of fun. But why should I go spend my money, which, is valuable even more so now with everything going on, to reward that and watch that? And it's not even that I'm angry. It's I don't care. And it's one thing to be angry, but it's another thing when you hit the level of I just don't care. And I think that's where the concern needs to be for the company. You're beyond pissing people off. Now people just don't care.
I mean, and that's another reason why I really stopped watching Raw and SmackDown. It doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter on a week-to-week basis whether anybody wins or loses. Nothing happens on Raw or SmackDown. If anything, the only things that do happen on Raw or SmackDown are things that you want to pull your hair out about. It's just it's stupidity week in and week out. And I always used to say, like, when wrestling's bad, it's really bad, but when it's good, there's nothing better. But it came to a point where there's only so much waiting for the next good thing to come about that there's YouTube now. If there's something good that comes about, I'll hear about it and I can go watch it on YouTube. Yeah, I don't need to watch the weekly shows every week anymore. It's a waste of my time, and I don't have a lot of it.
And the ratings are showing exactly what you're talking about. Again, there's no finish. By the way, I told you I have a pond on the neighbor's yard where I live out in the country. We could certainly do the re-angina in Carolina for SummerSlam if they need a place to go. And since they're having trouble finding places to host SummerSlam, come to my property. We got a lot of it.
Yeah.
Come use it. And I'm only half joking about that because I fully expect to see several cinematic matches take place. And I worry that at a certain point, how do you turn it back to a more natural flow, such as wrestling as a business being natural anyway? It's certainly not.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. And as you further erode the fan base and you further erode the viewership, I'm kind of scared to see what's left when all this is said and done.
But even going back to what was it, about a month ago or so? And I know that I'm probably nitpicking here, but going back, I think it was about a month ago or so. We were told that and this was an ongoing thing during one of the pay-per-views. Braun Strowman's car outside the black Buick Grand National. It's a pretty car that what was it? Miz and Morrison beat up the car and stuff, and that's fine. You're told that that's his car. All of a sudden, he's showing up in the swamp driving a black Ford Raptor. Okay, so now he's got a different car. It's just like I said, I'm sure I'm nitpicking here, but you can't really just go month to month and be like, oh well, this is what he's driving now. It was one thing when it was like Stone Cold Steve Austin, but I mean that was silliness. This wasn't supposed to be silly. But
it's not supposed to be. But
you're not.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead. I mean, you're not supposed to believe that okay, Steve Austin's car this week is actually he drove a Zamboni to the arena. It's not really his. It's
or a beer truck.
Yeah.
It's stuff we just look at and go, oh, that's Austin being Austin. Not, hey, that's his normal ride every week. And I think that's a really interesting point that you bring up. One of the things, Mark, you and I talk about offline is we talk about Star Trek, we talk about canon, and there's the Prime universe, the Kelvin universe, and if that's not your thing, don't worry about it. But we're the kind of people who we like stuff that we can remember and talk about. It flows together. It makes sense. It ties together. I like my wrestling to be that way too. Say what you will about the Attitude Era. It was all over the place. Okay.
Oh yeah.
I know there's a romanticization of that time, but look, it was all over the place. From the usual things everyone says, choppy PP, to Ryan Shamrock, and and a lot of old stuff we could dig up. The Headbangers and angles that never should have been greenlit in the first place. Abuse and things like that. It was all over the place. But one common theme is it all came back to one thing for the most part, and that was the rivalry between Vince and Austin, the rivalry with Austin and The Rock, and I would say probably the rivalry with Triple H and Mick. There was a lot of that. And then you could insert
DX and the Nation.
DX the Nation, Undertaker, and Kurt Angle could be inserted in that at any place, and it seemed to fit. It just worked. Just because of the way things were structured. And I realized a lot of things were being thrown against the wall to see what stuck, and a lot of stuff did. But see, it worked, so therefore nobody goes and looks at the flaws of how things were done because it worked and it was such a hot time. But make no mistake, there were plenty of dead things that they were just dead on arrival. It just didn't work. But the other stuff so overshadows it, nobody remembers that stuff.
There's plenty of terrible stuff from the Attitude Era.
Right. Go look at WrestleCrap if you want to know. It's They do good work there. But when it's dry and it's hurting for ratings and viewers and everything is just unentertaining. And again, it's not the work. These men and women bust their butts week in and week out to put on a program. They're away from their family. They're putting themselves in jeopardy with their health to entertain me, to entertain you. And unfortunately, they're not being put in the positions to be able to do that because you know what? If it's like Jim Cornette would always say, if wrestling's hot, guess what? You make more money. Everybody does better. All the other companies draw fans. Things are good. When things are bad, man, that stink gets on everybody and everything associated with the business. And I really wonder. It was about this time last year. Everybody was talking about AEW was going to debut and MLW and all these NWA and there's all these companies. Is there an appetite for this much wrestling? And I think the numbers have proven there isn't. There are places for niche for some of these other companies.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
But when the stink is on WWE, it kind of spreads to everyone else too. Just my opinion on that.
Yeah, high tide raises all boats.
It does.
Same works in the opposite too.
It does, and kind of as a transitioning a thought there, you're talking about the high tide raising all ships. Let's talk about NXT for a little bit. Have a little bit of positivity for the show. We do want to be positive on some things.
But they weren't there.
Don't dare be sour, Mark. Don't be sour. So we're going to crisscross Raw and NXT for a minute. Kairi Sane had her last appearance on Monday night. Former NXT. Sad. It is sad because we got the chance to really enjoy her work in NXT. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure at some point we will talk about her. I actually thought her tag team with Asuka was really cool. I enjoyed the stuff that they did. There was far more they could have gotten. She's made a choice to go, be with her husband, and God bless her for that. That's awesome. Make the choices that work for you.
Sure.
So sad to see her go. On the NXT side, we've seen some really good programs the last couple of weeks. We saw the Great American Bash.
That was fun.
You know what? It was. And we saw a tremendous main event. Winner take all. The belt's on the line. And, I haven't had a chance to talk about this, but God bless Adam Cole and the work he's done as NXT champion.
He was a hell of a champion. He really was. I can't gush enough about that guy. From his work in the ring, his promo abilities, the interview on what the hell is that guy's name?
Is it Pat McAfee?
Yeah, the Pat McAfee show. That was great. Clearly they're kayfabing it all up. Great stuff all around. He's. I'd go so far as to say that he is the prototype of what a professional wrestler should be. He is everything I want in a professional wrestler in 2020.
And if you look at him, Mark, he embraces all of the talents that makes a wrestler successful. Mm-hmm. He can go in the ring. He can talk you into the building. I want to see him get his ass kicked, mainly because he's so good. If somebody sucks, with the exception of the honky tonk man, which is a different issue for a different day, I want to see Adam Cole lose the belt. And I finally got to see that. And at the same time, I had the emotion of, I really hate to see him lose the belt.
Amen to that.
Because of the run he's had. And you think about it. Think about the eras and the people that he's gone through in that, year and a half, 400 some odd days?
Sure.
And it always goes like this in NXT. There's a drop-off, then it picks back up. Who's going to be the one to run with it? And he's done just an amazing job. Really, the Undisputed Era as a whole has done a really great job.
I popped big when I saw a recent news story that Kyle O'Reilly is coming back soon. For a guy who's just kind of been in the background, I do miss him a lot. I think that group without one of its parts is missing a lot.
You mean he's done making his movie?
I believe so.
Okay, all right. But you know what? That group is all of its parts together. It's worked. And it's interesting, and I want to make a comparison here. We've seen Bailey and Sasha hold all the women's gold on the main roster. I don't actually hate that. I think that's a cool thing because, at some point they have to split, right? You would imagine.
Sure.
If you look at NXT, how many factions have there been that you can think back on where they truly ran the show, so to speak? Has there been anyone that you can think of on the level of Undisputed Era where you have the champion, the tag champions, North American champion? Now, granted,
No,
if you
no,
think about,
it's never happened previously.
so this is a completely new thing. It worked, man.
Mhm.
Remember the Horsemen? When in their days, you had Flair, the world champion, Tully, the TV champion, or the tag champions, and it just worked. They ran everything.
Evolution
Exactly.
too.
You know what? It's worked at every level. You can go back and check these groups. It does work. And then over time, when you start splitting pieces off or taking belts off of them, it means so much more when they have that level of dominance. I've been able to enjoy that particular aspect of NXT. God bless Keith Lee. Just bask in his glory. That's all you can do.
Actually wearing my Legion shirt right now.
It's awesome. Adam Cole made him look like $1 million in that match. He still got
It
his
doesn't
spots
take
in.
Adam Cole to make him look like $1 million, but man, he did. Adam Cole bumped the hell out of that match. Oh my God. I want to say at least like the first 2/3 of the match are just Adam Cole getting beat up. It was crazy. But then Adam Cole got hope spots over Keith Lee, and you actually believe that. Hey, after watching Adam Cole for this whole time as NXT champion, he took out Johnny Gargano. He's taken out Tommaso Ciampa. He's gone up against everybody. And in the end, he's always left standing with the belt. So when he started getting a few of his super kicks on Keith Lee and getting him rocked and stuff, it's like, hey, he's got a shot here. And even though I knew what the outcome was because I can't wait out a spoiler, but sitting there watching it, I get lost in it. Even though I know the outcome, I still get lost in it. It's like, oh, here he comes. He's gonna, it just. That match is a great match. Go back and watch it if you have not seen it. Go check it out. It's well worth the amount of time that they gave it. I want to say they gave them a good 25 minutes or so, I believe, right?
Every bit of it, yeah.
Yeah, it's so great.
Again, compare that to what we were just talking about a little while ago with the Swamp match. I didn't even go into great detail because I didn't want to scar the people for life who were listening to the program. That doesn't even include the fact of them having the Alexa Bliss double there during the Swamp match, or Braun Strowman actually setting someone on fire again. I believe that's felony murder, lighting people on fire. But no, it's okay. So I like my NXT. I miss getting to talk it with you. We got to see some of the main roster come down to NXT, and they seem to fit in pretty well. We got to see Bailey down there. I do worry a little bit. Some of the more sports entertainment aspects have kind of started to creep through a little bit more in NXT over the last couple of weeks. But I think that's a function of that. It's just the way it is. It's not Paul Levesque's name on the company. It's Vince McMahon's name on the company, and it's going to be what it is. We've heard rumblings from sources in the back that there's a lot of irritation with Crazy Grandpa because AEW, while they haven't won every week with NXT, they've won a lot of them, and a lot of disappointment, you might say, on behalf of the chairman. They went on and actually apparently hired 2 or 3 new writers this week to work on the Black and Gold brand. Mark, I just throw it out to you. Bringing on additional writers or needing more writers, as a long-time NXT fan, how do you feel about that?
I don't think that they're needed. To be honest, whoever's been writing NXT for the last 5-6 years, I've been perfectly fine with their ideas, with their directions that they've sent the company off in. Again, this is something that I said going into this USA Network era of NXT. I didn't want to see them go 2 hours, and I hope that I'm not right here, but I'm seeing too many of the same people week in and week out on NXT television, and that's not good. That's one thing that NXT always had going for is that, even like week in and week out, we sit here and we look at various NXT talents, and we say like, oh well, Sasha Banks, she disappeared from TV for a couple of weeks here, and then she's back 3 weeks later doing this, or and that was just a function of NXT because they had so many talents that they didn't have to have them, or they couldn't even have them on TV every week because they had other stories to tell, and it was fine. But now you're starting to see the same people week in and week out because they've got 2 hours to film, and that's a problem. It really is. And now, like, even, I don't know if you saw the news report, but apparently TNT is looking for AEW to go 3 hours. So I
saw that, but I didn't think that was legitimate.
I've seen it in a couple of websites, so I don't know. I guess it's legit. I made a fun meme of a tombstone. It says, "Here lies AEW." They decided to go 3 hours.
I don't know any show, Mark, that I sit for 3 hours every week and watch.
Yeah.
When entertainment is working and there are shows, what are some of the non-wrestling shows that you enjoy on a weekly basis? Just curious. What would be some of them?
I actually don't really watch anything live. I'm much more of a Netflix person who sits there and watches old shows, or like, we've spoken about this. I watch Star Trek endlessly,
Yes.
But I also like my Big Bang Theory or, Seinfeld. Yeah, it's all the stuff that's been around for years. A lot of the current stuff I'm not really a big fan of. It's just not really my thing. There's a lot of shows that I just like. I know you said to try out the Big Show. I watched 2 episodes. I just couldn't. I couldn't keep it up.
It's more for kids. I get that. I understand.
Yeah.
And that's cool. But can you think of a show outside of a Jets game when they were competitive for the whole game, or my Cardinals when they were competitive for a whole game, that you would sit?
Happened in years.
We got Kyler Murray. Back up, dude. Back up. We have DeAndre Hopkins too.
No, I'm talking about my Jets.
I know. I'm sending you an air hug right now. I do understand that.
Your team playing the Super Bowl.
I can die happy. At least I got to see that. Can you think of a show you would watch for 3 hours every week? A non-sporting event?
I don't have time to sit my ass down in front of the TV for 3 straight hours. Like, that's unthinkable.
2 hours for me is 2 hours too much. I don't watch stuff in real time. Maybe with the exception of The Walking Dead. I try to watch in real time, but I never start on time when it's running. That's it. Everything else, I use Hulu. I have Netflix. We watch it later. I can't tell you something I sit and watch for that long a time. And if we won't watch other forms of entertainment for that period of time, why would we watch wrestling for 3 hours at a time? I don't think it makes logical sense. From that perspective. Anything else you want to cover with NXT? Any things from the last couple of weeks you want to talk about?
I love everything, and they've been going on for months now with this. Like everything Keith Lee and Dominic Dijakovic. I love that pairing. Not only the matches, but also like the friendship between the two of them. They're awesome. They have that competitiveness between the two of them that's and it always goes back to that competitiveness. Like they're friends, but deep down they still want to try and one up each other, and I love that. It's you don't really have a lot of that like on the main roster, and even going back to like the Attitude Era, like Austin and The Rock hated each other, and now that you see them, like they're both retired and stuff, and sometimes you get to see the two of them interact at WrestleMania, like
Mhm.
then you get kind of that like hey, like oh yeah, we had all those great matches together, and now we can kind of put that aside, but then there's like that little like looking at each other out of the corner of their eye,
Yep.
like just don't really trust you, like it's good stuff, and that's kind of like what I see in Lee and Dijakovic here, and I love it. I can't get enough of them.
You know, it's rare to see people who are actual, friends in
Mhm.
the wrestling business and really be able to bring that through on the camera. Um, I think about Jerry Lawler and Bill Dundee down in Memphis. They wrestled together. They were tag champions on occasion, and then 6 months later they would split and feud around the horn for 6 months.
Hmm.
People, everybody knew they respected each other, but they knew they weren't friends. They might be fighting against a common enemy, but at some point that would run out and they'd be back at each other's throats. It's hard for me to think of a true friendship. I guess
Hmm.
Sasha and Bailey, I guess, would be one, a legitimate friendship, but it adds a different dynamic, I think. And when the time comes and they are going to face off for the championship, I think it's going to have just a little bit different dynamic than what we're used to.
Hmm.
I think you'll see even just a little bit more intensity because both want to show equally how good they are, and
Sure.
that's good stuff, man. It's human. That's what we identify with.
Yeah, and I also wanted to share here too. Dominic Dijakovic doesn't really tweet a whole lot, but I do follow him on Twitter, and there's been a couple of tweets recently that have been freaking phenomenal. I've told you about these.
Hmm.
Um, when it was a couple of days before he was to take on Karrion Cross. Um, he tweeted out 2 more days until I beat the MS Paint tattoos off of cosplay Goldberg while Sub Zero's grandmother watches. Like, and then the night of the show, he puts up, "It's showtime. I'll be back in a minute. All right." Just fantastic, so funny. Yeah, if you're not following this guy, go follow him. He doesn't, like I said, he doesn't tweet very often, but a lot of the stuff that he does tweet is pretty good.
Again, you turned me on to that. What about 2 weeks ago? I think,
Yeah.
and you know what? It's good to not see someone gimmicking their Twitter. It's just people who are friends. I think that's cool. I really,
Hmm.
really do. Um, what else? Anything else you'd like to cover with NXT?
Not so much NXT, but did you see the interview with Deonna Purrazzo with Impact? I think it is. She just started with Impact, right?
Yeah, yeah, she did.
Um,
I have not seen it yet.
yeah, she had a really good interview with who was it? The one from the Beautiful People.
Angelina
Who's
Love.
still there? What's that? No, it's not Angelina Love. Crap, it's not Angelina Love. It's not Velvet Sky. The other one.
Oh, good lord! It's not
The heck's her
Velvet.
name? Let me see if I can pull it up here.
Is it Madison Rain?
Madison Rain, yes.
Okay,
She
all right.
she has an interview with Madison Rain, talking about like I guess she's got uh, or she had a title match. I'm looking here. It looks like she's the champion over there now. She had a match coming up for the Knockouts title and saying like, well, what does it feel like, going into a match for the Knockouts title, and she says, and she starts name dropping like, um, Awesome Kong and and all of what's her name, Gail Kim, and a number of other women who have held that title, and saying like how just how amazing it'll be to be able to announce to say her name within like that list and stuff, and how like she actually even gets emotional. And I don't think it's kayfabe, I think it was totally legit, that she really felt that much about the Knockouts title, because
Mhm.
back in the day, the the Knockouts title meant a lot in NXT in TNA.
It did.
I mean, I remember back to, I don't remember what year it was, but at one point I remember they were talking about possibly giving the women a television show of their own.
They were talking about that. It's when Impact was at its zenith, for what it's worth.
What was that, about 2005, I think?
Yeah, it would have been in that range when they were doing well on Spike. But you know what? Good for her. Good for her recognizing the history of the company she's working with. It doesn't hurt to ingratiate yourself to the company that you're working from. But also, I'm glad to see her get an opportunity. Look, as much as I love NXT, everybody's not always going to get the opportunity I want them to have. Look, EC3 was in their developmental before he went off, he was Derek Bateman before he became EC3 and came back. It doesn't always work for everybody. And that's okay. We don't need a 100% success rate. Go off and do something with yourself, and maybe you have a chance to come back. I hope one day we're sitting here talking about, WWE and other companies being on the same level. But what I'm afraid of is if we're having that conversation, it doesn't mean all the others are elevated. I'm more concerned about WWE's star fading some. But a guy can hope.
Yeah, it actually, I just looked it up. It does say, I guess that interview was kind of old because it says that she defeated Jordynne Grace on July 18th at Slammiversary. So I guess we're a couple of weeks behind in that, but yeah, good for her. She's a Jersey girl,
Right.
Born in Livingston. She's built from Hackettstown, but she was born in Livingston. So Hackettstown is actually the next town over from me. A couple of guys that we have come and do some yard work for us every once in a while say that the one guy saw me wearing an NXT shirt one day, and he's like, "Hey, I know someone who wrestles for them." And I was like, "Oh yeah, who's that?" He's like, "Deanna Purrazzo. She was all about wrestling when we were in high school." So it's good for her. I'm glad to see her succeeding.
Well, I hate to tell you, we don't see NXT shirts in this particular part of North Carolina. I see a lot of being the elite and Young Bucks shirts.
Yeah, on my street, I see a lot of NXT shirts. Of course, they're all in my closet, But
I was just gonna say, okay, all right then. I didn't know you'd become the new epicenter of wrestling there. So I think
since we've been home, since we've been working from home, I pretty much live in my wrestling shirts these days.
It really is just dependent on who I'm having my Zoom meeting with. Depends on what I'm wearing that day. I've gotten a lot out of my Star Wars shirt collection during the pandemic. So, was there anything else you wanted to mention with NXT?
I don't think so. Let's see. I think I want to talk about that in the next section.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I guess this seems as good a time as any to hit on our obligatory commercial break, so to speak.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
I want to take a moment to appeal to our faithful listeners here. We're currently available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Stitcher, CastBox, SoundCloud, pwinsiderelite.com, and also on our YouTube channel available at heyoradio.com. Basically anywhere and everywhere that you like to get your podcasts. So please do us a solid and subscribe, give us a 5-star review. All of those help us out and makes us more visible to the masses. So please, if you like our content, share it around, get us some more ears. Thank you, and now back to your regularly scheduled programming.
All right. Well, the next thing we want to talk about is WWE had a big evening last night. They had their quarterly conference call scheduled after 5. Always a smart thing to do. The market ends, and you can do a little bit of after hours announcing. So, a few highlights to hit from that conference call. One of the questions that was asked, and Mark, we talked about it before we came on the air, but I want to get your take on the air. Sure. Is when asked why WWE, both Raw and SmackDown, were struggling in the ratings, Vince answered, the reason NXT and AEW are doing better is because they're a newer brand. that's why they're having better success in the ratings, at least holding their audience instead of bleeding their audience as much. I'm going to take a step back. I'm just going to mute myself internally and just let you kind of address that, because you had some feelings on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just they're a newer brand. I don't even know how to address that. That okay, they're a newer brand, but really, like, is that why people are tuning in? Is that why people are tuning in? Because I mean, we were kind of going off about this not that long ago. The reason why I watch NXT is because it makes more sense. And on a weekly basis, it doesn't make me feel stupid for watching it. And they reward me with good wrestling and good storytelling and characters that are interesting. And we've also touched on this. Triple H has said on conference calls in the past that people coming in and leaving NXT, and just as we speak on a weekly basis here, going about going week in and week out about like this talent or that talent and this talent and that, and basically you're looking at people staying in NXT for like a year and a half, sometimes about 2 years. Baron Corbin was there longer. Emma came back and left and came back. It's kind of one of those things that is specific to NXT, where they constantly have a changing roster because it's just the nature of what it is. Now that they're on the USA, it's a little bit different. You've had your Johnny Garganos, your Tommaso Ciampas, sticking around for longer. You've had the Undisputed Era has had quite a run. So you have guys who are sticking around a bit longer than they normally would have. But do you really believe that that the constantly changing roster, or that's why people are sticking around and tuning into NXT as opposed to Monday Night Raw or SmackDown? I mean, this is a show where week in and week out you're giving somebody new. Hey, Karrion Kross is coming. Hey, here's Dominik Dijakovic. Some dude that he's really big. We don't really know a whole lot about him, and we still honestly don't know a whole lot about him, to be honest. It's he has great matches, but a lot of his backstory, he hasn't really been one of the guys that they've done a lot of writing for, but I love his matches. I mean, putting on good matches on a weekly basis and something that's entertaining, that's what gets people to tune in. When you go and put the crap on what's it called, on Extreme Rules, Rey Mysterio loses an eyeball, but he's off to the medical facility where the doctors have been have told us that they were able to reattach his retina and he'll be okay. Like, stop giving us stupid shit like that. It's just not believable. And I mean, you put yourself in this position by putting stupid things like that. Or how about like you hire Eric Bischoff and Paul Heyman to come in, and those are gonna be the guys who are running Monday Night Raw and SmackDown. But then, like, I think they went to the US, that they started their new contract with Fox. That was where Bischoff was, I believe, and they're on Fox. What maybe a month or so, and Bischoff is gone. Are you kidding me? Like, don't tell me that guy's not creative. I mean, that dude ran WCW for a lot of years and came up with plenty of great ideas. Okay, so you're going to tell me that like the NWO was not his idea? He stole it from New Japan. That's fine. He's a guy who's got his eyes on other things that are going on in the world, and he's bringing stuff in that he's the one who brought in the luchadors. There's plenty of ideas that he's got going on in his mind. I love his 83 Weeks podcast every week. He's friggin' phenomenal. I can't say enough good stuff about Eric Bischoff. I love that dude. And they used him for like a couple of months, and then they just spit him out because they just don't know what the hell they're doing. Paul Heyman, let go. Why? Because Vince McMahon loves his creative. What? What? You let somebody go because you like what they do? Who does that? I do. I do a good job of my work. I don't get fired for it. Do you?
No, usually I get complimented and treated very well for
Yeah,
doing my job well. They don't
because
usually bang on me for that.
because that's how, like, a normally run place works. Here you have in WWE, like, oh, you do a good job, so let's just get rid of you. Like, it's just stupid. I mean, even Eric Young, he's a guy who you can give Eric Young anything to do. All right, let's make him one half of the women's tag team champions, and you can wrestle in your underwear on a weekly basis. The dude's going to be out there doing it. Like, you couldn't find something for that guy to do? Come on.
Well,
I mean, that shit's right up Vince's alley. Why couldn't he find something for Eric Young to do? This is
look at everything
bullshit.
Eric Young went through in Impact, and then you put him in a group called Sanity in NXT. Now we got something going on there. Okay, that's the right type of group. Little off kilter,
Mm-hmm.
little cray cray. Hey, this could be something really different that NXT doesn't have, and it
And you know what?
worked.
Sorry to cut you off, but you know what? Like,
Yeah.
as the leader of Sanity, he took Sanity into the it was the first, I think it was the first War Games.
Yep.
And man, that dude was serious. I mean, you looked at Eric Young in a completely different light in NXT as opposed to his run in Impact. There was no don't fire Eric, or Super Eric, or Eric wrestling in his underwear, or stripping down to marry what's her face? What the hell is her name? ODB. Like,
Mhm.
there's no stupid, idiotic stuff for Eric Young in NXT. He was believable, and you got behind him, and it was just like, yeah, I get that guy, and this makes sense. He's the leader of this kind of weird faction, but it works. But let's put him up to the main roster because his faction's starting to get kind of hot down here, and Vince doesn't have anything for him, and here he is, like a week or a couple of weeks after, saying that he told Vince McMahon that he's failed as a leader. You know what? I'm with Eric Young there. He has failed as a leader. But I'll get off my soapbox.
Are you going to be okay? Do you need a cold beverage?
Yeah.
Perhaps a cool washcloth to dab your brow with.
Well, I've been
Um,
kind of quiet this episode, so
you're like the
I was
babyface
waiting.
comeback. He's firing up.
I was waiting.
Well, so that brings me to something. Thank you for segueing into that. Hold on, I have to make myself a note to come back to something. Okay, cool. Because we haven't really free flowed in a while. WWE announced.
Yeah,
and
I
think
have no notes for tonight whatsoever. So yeah.
I want to say that WWE announced. I want to say I saw it on Yahoo Finance that they cleared almost $44 million in profit.
Oh, I thought you were
For
going
the
to say in
sec-
contracts.
It's funny you mentioned
People that they
No,
released.
no, yeah, you know what? Thank you for anticipating. Analysts, I believe they were expecting something like 12 million in revenue, and they cleared almost 44. So everyone's happy, right? I want to go back and take a look at something. And this comes from Dave Meltzer, and some like, some don't care. We're going to use Dave Meltzer. That the estimation at the time when they did their talent layoffs and furloughs, they were going to save about $4 million per month. So did that happened in April, correct?
I
The
think
furloughs
so.
and such. Okay,
I
so
think
let's
so.
just say April, May, June, and July, because we're here at the end of July here. And yes, I counted on my fingers to make sure I could count to July. So I'm going to say 4 million a month times 4 months is 16 million. 4 times 4 is 16. You cleared 44 million. Even if you take 16 out of 44, I think that puts you around 28. Math is not my strong suit,
We
but
had to
I
get
think
rid of those people, pal.
Yeah, looking back, I need to know again how that was saving the company when you cleared that that much money. I don't know. It makes me scratch my head a little bit. Why why you were cutting folk? You were talking about Deanna Peraza as well. So I was just wondering, did I miss something there? Is there some math that I'm not aware of that I should be?
Well, that's new math. That's
Oh, okay, all right. Because last I checked, New Japan didn't lay anyone off. Ring of Honors paid everyone on time. AEW still running, but they're paying people. MLW has paid on time. Court Bauer says he'll take a year and a half off and still pay everybody before he'll run a show.
And how much is WWE bringing in on a monthly basis with these new TV deals?
Oh God, it's in, what is there a SmackDown worth? Is it 2.2? Is it billion? I want to say.
Something like that, I believe, right?
I believe that's what it was because
2.05, I think it was,
oh,
wasn't it?
okay, well I don't want to oversell it by any means. But
Yeah, I want
yeah,
to say it
if
was
you,
like 2.05.
I don't know, man. Maybe I'm missing something there. We talked at the time when it happened about the optics of letting people go, and now I see
Mhm.
these numbers come out, and I'm like, what?
Oh, 205 million annually.
205 million annually, and over the life of it, I
Annually,
believe it was, yeah. Um, I'm sorry, man. The optics are what they are.
it was
You had to get.
1.025 billion over the life of the pact.
Jeez, wow. I can't even figure out the
And
zeros on
that's
that one.
just SmackDown alone.
Hmm.
I mean, Monday Night Raw was right about in the same neighborhood as well, I believe, right?
It was in the same neighborhood, and the thing that gets me is all these other companies were able to keep their people. Why couldn't you? And I guess I can get off my soapbox on that. It just frustrates me because, as you said, you raise the tide and it raises for everyone else. Um, if WWE continues to free fall, there aren't going to be a ton of places for people to go and work because they only have so many roster spots on AEW and MLW or the NWA, which is sitting dead right now as well. There's only so many slots and so much money to be made.
Hmm.
Um, and you mentioned NXT and putting out all this talent week after week after week. I did want to say something about AEW, and I've dipped my toes in the water in previous months, but they had a
That's
match
you're
on Wednesday
fired from
night.
this podcast.
Cody was defending the. I know. I'm giving my resignation. Uh, he wrestled a guy named Warhorse, who is he's all over the independents. They gave him, I kid you not, they gave him a brand new entrance, music wise, for him to come down to the ring. I was completely shocked that they did that. But yeah, they spent the money and the time to give him an entrance on AEW, and I just kind of thought to myself, you know what? Maybe that's some might say that's a waste of money or whatnot, but if you're going to bring a guy in and put him on the level, that's not a bad thing to do if you think about it.
Hmm.
Um, Again, I know a lot of people don't like AEW. They feel it's independent wrestling that's on TV. Hey, brother,
Sure.
whatever, sister, whatever, like what you like, okay? And don't let anybody talk you out of it. If you hate NXT, don't let us talk you into liking it. You don't have to watch it. It's all good. It doesn't hurt me. If you love AEW, awesome. Watch it, support it. We want companies to succeed. But I guess what I'm thinking about is this: they do all this stuff to serve their fan base, whether it's maybe the fan base you or I are part of, or maybe not. At least they're serving their fan base, trying to do things. And I can't for the life of me understand the difference in why they try to serve their fan base. Again, whether everyone likes it or not, set that aside. Why
Mhm.
WWE has this attitude of we're just not going to give people a lot of times what they want. You can't always do that, obviously. But what's the harm every once in a while in doing something the fans will actually get behind and rally around? I don't get it. I really do not understand. So All right. So a couple other things on the conference call, and then I will turn it back over to you. Um, the one lady that's on there that loves Vince was not on the conference call, so we didn't.
Who was that?
I don't know her name, but she's in love with Vince. Everything he does is just wonderful. So
Oh,
I don't know who she's with. I've heard her voice on there. I'm just like, wow, okay. A little self-respect would be all right. They actually talked about, and this is something they talked about a couple of months ago before the pandemic started, was the OTT, the streaming and whatnot.
hmm
Vince was actually asked about selling um, their pay-per-views. Again, he went to the tried and true. We're attractive for a streaming service. I know Amazon was in play at one point before they signed their deals. I don't see, with the ratings being what they are, that one of these companies is going to invest in them unless there's a major turnaround. You look at some of the shows that are not being brought back, even in the streaming world. Shows get canceled all the time. Shows I like get canceled, don't
hmm
get renewed. And then there's others get renewed. You go, why? Well, if they have the numbers, we're going to keep them going. I don't know what they're smoking, but I'm thinking North Carolina is probably illegal down here to possess and to partake of. But I don't know, man. People, I guess the financial people eat this stuff up, but we watch this stuff week in and week out and follow it, and I don't see how they're attractive to anyone. I
Yeah,
just
I don't see that as. I don't know. I mean, their ratings are continually declining each week. It seems like it's being announced that it's like, oh, this is the lowest number that they've seen since they've gone to 3 hours. Like, great, so they're beating themselves each week. That's fantastic. It's how low can we sink? And at some point, they're lucky that they've got these deals with USA and Fox. Do you think that
Mhm.
USA and Fox are going to want to re-up the same deals in 5 years or whatever? What is it, 4 years, 3 years now or so?
Yeah,
Do you think that they're really going to come back to the table and be like, yeah, let's just keep this going, because you've done such a great job of, bringing eyeballs to our network,
well, in USA, I mean, really, what do they have going for them? They just canceled the show with Rosario Dawson. I forget the name. Briar Patch, I think it was. A
Okay.
couple of their shows they've done this year, they've already canceled. Suits had a spinoff. Pearson. I liked Suits a great deal. Followed it all the way to the end. Pearson was kind of uneven, but they canceled that show after one season.
Hmm.
Really, right now, all I know they have. I don't even know if Mr. Robot is still on the show. I never watched it, but I knew it was on there. I will watch Chris Lee Knows Best because I like train wreck stuff, and it entertains me.
Hmm.
Um, but other than that, the only reason I go to USA is if I see there's an NCIS episode I want to see that's playing in reruns. There's really not anything to make me go to that channel other than Raw, which
Hmm.
I can see the next day and fast forward through.
Yeah.
Let's be honest here. So they're lucky they signed them when they did. AEW's lucky they signed their contracts when they did. They're locked in a little bit more long term. But it seems like, at least from the network level, they're a lot more happy with the AEW product than USA is.
Yeah.
So it's a scary time, man. Look, I'm not anti WWE. I want WWE to succeed because it helps everybody else. But I'm just wondering, is there any vision to change it, or are we just playing out the string until Vince steps aside for whatever reason? And that's kind of what it feels like. And at
Hmm.
that point, I don't see all the fans rallying around and coming back just because that's the case. There's a lot of scorched earth out there, and I don't know that Paul Levesque and Stephanie being named the heads of the company they're not gonna flip the script the next day. You
No, but
can't.
I think they'd be in a much better position if they did.
I think so. I just wonder, there is a fan base that it's Vince McMahon. They're not giving them their money. That's just the way they are, and that's fine. That's cool. Be who you are.
I
You
know
do
some
you.
people who are like that. Hmm.
You do you. That's fine. But I don't know that these folks would come back and give it a second chance. I mean, how many nights after WrestleMania do people come back and then leave? And they don't come back again for another year. Well, at a certain point, the law of diminishing returns, people forget to come back.
Yeah.
There's other options, man. People have kids. They have a life. It's just not priority to them.
And here's the other thing. I mean, numbers are going down, down, down every week. This is during the time when, like, all right, Major League Baseball just started back up. I know on Monday nights I'm watching my Yankees before watching Raw. Same thing goes for Friday. If there's a Yankees game on, I'd rather watch it. The NBA is starting back up. You got the NHL starting back up. You got football coming up in the fall. WWE has been running, as far as sports go, pretty unopposed. Over the last few months, and the numbers are still going down. And this is also during the time where a lot of people are home because, well, they're not working because nobody's working. Other than the quote unquote essential businesses. But it's just people are home. They're going to be watching TV, and they're not watching your program because they're finding something else that's better.
And Mark, you're a fan of the Flash show.
Mm-hmm.
I stayed actually up until the last. I think I watched the last 6 episodes because I got behind, so I binged it over the weekend a couple of months ago. It got, I think, to episode 19. That's as far as they got before the pandemic cut off filming. Okay, so that was the end of their season. I'm old. I like NCIS. I'm an old man. Their season finale was, I'm not going to say it was a throwaway episode. It was actually a really good episode with, who was the dude from Taxi? Reverend Jim. I can't think. Christopher Lloyd. Did a really great job, but it didn't feel like a finale. It was just sort of, that was one of the episodes as we're creeping towards wherever we're going. So at a certain point, new stuff completely stopped. WWE didn't stop. They were churning out first run content week after week after week.
So when you're trying to think of Christopher Lloyd, you think of Taxi?
It's the first thing I thought of. Don't judge me. He was also a captain on a Klingon ship too. But I was getting there.
He's also Doc Brown, dude.
I was getting there. God, okay. First of all, I found out
in Avengers. Talk iconic roles, Doc Brown, man.
First of all, Back to the Future lied to us. We learned that in Avengers Endgame. The whole time travel thing, it's all fake. Okay, they lied to us, so I can't put a lot of faith in that movie franchise right now.
Yeah,
I'm working through my feelings on it. Look, Ant-Man wouldn't lie. Okay,
I don't know. Go talk to Kushida about that.
Thank you. #Time Splitters. Here's what I've done. I'll tell you, I haven't been to watch the WWE Network watching old stuff. I'll go on YouTube and watch old clips, right? I do stuff like that. But I've taken time I would give to wrestling normally, and I found other things to watch. I found the show Jericho that Mike Johnson, PW Insider, loves to death. I now understand why he loved it so much. It was a great show. It's also 15 years old now.
Not the show on TNT.
No, there was not a little bit of the bubbly popped as I watched the series. A little bit of the Dr. Pepper was drank, but not the bubbly. Different show. Sorry about that. But just like you, going on and finding things to binge, watch, and check out. Things that I would normally have done. And unfortunately, I don't feel the call to go find more content. They bought the Evolve content, and they were asked about that in the
curious
conference call.
To see what happens with that. I really am.
He said it was just a content purchase because someone asked him on the conference call, were they going to run Evolve shows? And he said, no, we just purchased the library. But here's the one I've been saving for you, Mark. And you had your moment a little while ago. You were fired up. You kind of cooled down now as we get ready to go into the main event. There is a comment from Vincent Kennedy McMahon, and they were talking about
such
AEW.
Great shit.
It's not the one, but I'm sure he believes that based on what he said. And this is when they were asking about AEW and NXT. He also went on to say this, quote, "We are still trying to create new stars for Raw."
Why? So he can pull him up from NXT and put him on Raw and then kill him again, like he does. He's been doing for the last decade. Okay, so we make new stars on SmackDown, we send them over to Raw, and then we have the established guys like Dolph Ziggler go over them. You're telling me that they don't have established stars on Raw? Let's take a look at the Raw roster here. So, yeah, just filibuster while I pull this crap up.
Well, a couple of other things that following up Mark's train of thought. He was asked about Paul Heyman. He said, "quote Paul Heyman did a great job." If he did a great
So
job,
let's
why is
fire
it?
him.
Well, let's fire him. Someone asked about Triple H helping out with creating new stars. He says he's already helping, but we need all hands on deck. I don't know who that was a shot at, since they only have 50,000 writers as it is. Again, he indicated once they go live, everything's going to turn back the way it was. Everything will correct itself. I don't know. Are people going to be allowed to go into buildings and social distance? I don't know, because our PNC Arena where the Hurricanes play, that's our hockey team. That's where wrestling goes. It was pretty social distance last time me and my girls went, because there weren't that many people there. So
Say that about any Tampa Bay Rays game too.
yeah. So we'll see, man. I don't see that as the be all end all fix all. I'm sorry, I just don't.
Yeah, so I got the Raw roster up here. It's all alphabetized. So let's start from the top.
Okay.
Akam, one half of the Authors of Pain. Have we seen him on Raw anytime recently?
We have not seen the AOP recently, no.
Akira Tozawa.
The Ninja?
Yeah, now there's a guy that they did a nice job of rebuilding during the cruiserweight title tournament and everything, and he appears on what the hell pay-per-view was that with his ninjas? You know, you had a nice rant about them.
I did, and by the way, to answer your question, Razor's actually he suffered a bicep injury back in early March, so the team is on hiatus. Just to answer that one.
Okay. So I guess they can't have Akam there, like minus Razor.
Apparently not. No, they're either a team or nothing, because Vince believes in tag teams.
Yeah.
We have the Usos, we have the New Day, and
yeah.
I'll get back with you. Go ahead on.
Aleister Black. He needs a new gimmick.
Well, he needs a new eye after Monday night.
Yeah. Andrade. No longer
Excellent.
Cien Almas.
No, he is not. An excellent tag team with Angel Garza.
Mm-hmm.
They're really getting you over there. Losing match
former
after
NXT champion who is a fantastic heel.
Mm-hmm. And now in a tag team that loses week in, week out.
Yeah. You said Angel Garza. He's the next one on the list.
Mm-hmm. Oh, look at me.
Another great heel. He did wonders with the the cruiserweight title.
Yep.
Yeah, no. What do they do with him on Raw now?
He's in a tag team. They're chasing the Street Profits.
Oh. And speaking of the Street Profits, the next one up is Angelo Dawkins. I mean, there's a tag team, I believe, seems to be well pushed, at least on Raw, in stupid segments, but these at least featured.
You would think.
Right?
But you know what? I don't want to get my hopes up just yet.
Yeah. Next one up, Apollo Crews. We can go back to his run in NXT. I think we touched on this a couple of weeks ago. I've never really been a fan of the guy. When he debuted, he came in with a lot of fire, and a lot. Hearing about Uhaa Nation coming to WWE is like, oh, I remember reading about this Uhaa Nation guy. Cool, So he signs with WWE, and his matches, he comes out smiling way too often, and I don't know, his move set just doesn't really seem hard hitting enough for me. The dude's got a heck of a build, but he doesn't seem to move like a guy that is built the way he is, and he just seems very overly happy all the time. And I get that that's, you want your baby faces to come out smiling and stuff. Look at John Cena. That's what Vince likes, and I guess that works for you, but I never really saw why they moved Apollo Crews up to Raw, because I never thought that he really hit it hot in NXT.
It will not be a long episode for his NXT run, I wouldn't imagine, when
No,
we ever get around to that.
he had a very short NXT run, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Asuka, she was a monster in NXT. What's she done on the main roster?
Well, apparently some were ready for Asuka.
Seems like a lot have been ready for Asuka.
Yeah, it would seem that way.
You want to talk about another really short episode of our podcast? Austin Theory, he had a really long run in NXT.
Man, we're gonna have to release like Hey Yo Radio shorts for some of these.
Yeah.
Come listen to the 5-minute Reader's Digest version.
Yeah. What's he doing on the main roster? Is he being used at all?
I don't think he's being used very well.
And there's a dude who has like all the potential in the world. How old is he? He's like 22 or something, right?
He is, yeah.
He's got a heck of a build. I don't know how well he can talk, but I mean they seem to like him. They moved him right up to Raw. They didn't even give him a cup of coffee in NXT.
So I do want to say I misspoke. I had Austin Theory. It's actually it's not him. It is actually Angel Garza. I misspoke. I wanted to correct myself from earlier. Yes, he is the tag team partner of Andrade. Still not any more successful than if it were Angel Theory, but or Austin Theory rather.
So wait, so Andrade's tag partner is Theory or Garza?
Garza. I'm sorry, I misspoke earlier.
Oh, that's. I think that's what you said earlier.
Okay, well, I just worry about your health, your well-being, your blood pressure.
Yeah.
I care.
Becky Lynch. Yeah, she's not there.
She's got other things on her mind.
Yeah. Bianca Belair. How well are they using her?
To be honest, I think they used her because she was a warm body there in Orlando. Gun to my head.
Yeah.
She's one of the most naturally charismatic and gifted athletes they have on the roster, male or female.
Amen to that. And what is she doing on Raw? Is she even on Raw?
She hasn't been featured in the last couple of weeks, but she has been on there with the Street Profits on occasion, competing in 6-man matches.
Because that's a good use for her. Like why isn't she wrestling Bayley or Sasha Banks or Asuka? I mean, she should be up in that group. She really should.
I guess they just don't see it in her right now.
Then you know what? If you don't see it in somebody, don't move them up to Raw. Isn't Raw the number one show? How about we don't put those people on Raw that aren't ready for the number one show? If you don't think that they're ready, keep them in NXT or put them over to SmackDown. I still think she had a bit to go in NXT. They never put the title on her, and I thought that she could have handled herself pretty well as champion. But they never even bothered to give her a shot. I mean, she had a couple of title matches, but and when she did wrestle live on a takeover show, she performed very well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
You wouldn't. I never looked at any of her matches on like live takeover shows and said, well, she's been on all of these pre-tape shows so much that she wasn't ready for the live show. No, she was ready to go. She showed that she had enough experience to work on a live show.
And again, for reasons I cannot explain, when they're talking about things like, "Oh, we need to create new stars on Raw," no freaking kidding. How long have you been needing to do? Yeah, you have people. Use them well. But no,
No, instead we have matches with the next guy, Big Show. I mean, nothing against Big Show. I like Big Show. He comes off as a genuinely nice guy. But at some point, this is you're talking 2020 here. He was WCW champion in what 1998, 1997, or something like that. What are you getting out of the guy in 2020 that you need to you need to feature him on Monday Night Raw on a weekly basis? Is he's in like some feud with Randy Orton or something, isn't he?
Yeah, Randy Orton took him out 2 weeks ago on Raw, and I guess the whole point is building up to Randy Orton, Drew McIntyre
And
at
that's fine.
SummerSlam.
And that's fine, but is wrestling Big Show really gonna? Is that does that line him up to be a number one contender?
Well,
What does the Big Show mean in 2020?
what does Edge mean in 2020?
I think he probably means a heck of a lot more than Big Show.
But
He's at
to
least
what?
fresh. He hasn't been around for the last what is 6, 7, 8 years or so.
But what does beating him really do for you? He hasn't been around exactly like you said all those
Yeah.
years. I'm not arguing that he's not important, but I mean, in the 2020 version of WWE, what does it matter? Oh, he's a Hall of Famer. Wonderful.
Yeah.
It's bring back Goldberg and do that to him. It's not that far removed. It's the same concept.
Goldberg can't lose.
Only at WrestleMania and only in 5 minutes or less.
Yeah.
I can also only win in 5 minutes or less too, just for the record. When we're going to put the Universal
He
title on
usually
him.
wins in 2 minutes or less.
There's still at least one person that we know that still has never recovered from that Survivor Series.
Yeah, we covered him
Yeah,
a few weeks ago.
Yeah, and there's at least one Facebook friend of ours who still has never recovered from witnessing the horror that was Brock Lesnar losing in 2 minutes. But I mean, realistically, what else? Who else are you going to put Randy Orton over? Who else do you want him beating on his way to Drew McIntyre? There's not a whole lot to choose from. You've got the Street Profits as a tag team. You've got Angel Garza and Andrade as a tag team. Dolph? I've tried to keep Dolph out of this week's show because he makes an appearance a lot like someone else does.
Yeah.
Who else is there? And this whole we need to make stars. You've known this since the John Cena era began to wind down, since the Triple H era finally wound down, since Batista moving on to a career. Randy Orton, while still a great performer, I've seen his act now for going on 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like growing up as a fan in the 80s when, say, Ric Flair started in 72, 73, and he'd been wrestling for 15 years before I was old enough to realize he was the world champion. I didn't know that. I just knew what I saw.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now we have people who are at the age now to say, oh, Randy Orton, oh, he's a 57-time world champion. Oh, he's been wrestling for 20 years. Well, why am I still watching him? There's no one to take his spot, which makes me think he'll go over Drew McIntyre at SummerSlam because why not?
Yeah.
But go ahead. Who else do you have on there?
Billy Kay. What are they doing with the Iconics?
Nothing.
Are they doing anything with them?
They were in a match. They
were in a match at Extreme Rules, I believe, right?
I believe they were. They were not successful, but they were there. They did mess up Bayley's birthday a couple of months ago on one of the shows. I do remember that. That's all I got. Sorry.
So they messed up Bayley's birthday?
Yeah, Bayley was having a birthday celebration.
No, Bayley's a heel, correct?
That is correct, yes.
The Iconics are baby faces?
They at least got their title shot against Ruby Riott, or they got to wrestle Ruby Riott and Bianca Belair. 2 weeks ago now? 3 weeks ago on Raw. At least there was that.
Their team?
They were that night.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the Iconics are super entertaining. I don't know. And this is something I wanted to. I forgot to touch on back in NXT when we were talking about that. Io Shirai. We talked a little bit about her before we turned on the recorder.
Mhm.
Correct me if I'm wrong. She is supposed to be a heel in NXT, I believe. Correct, because she turned on Candice LeRae after she lost an NXT title match to Shayna Baszler. Correct.
Uh, But see, I don't really know that's true because she's just wrestled Sasha Banks at the Great American Bash,
And that's
and
where I'm getting is that now she's wrestling Sasha Banks, and people are cheering for her. And this is something I even had a problem with when she first turned heel. She goes up there for that moonsault, and she still makes that motion to the crowd, to get them up and excited about her moonsault. And I never really thought that that's a motion that a heel should be making. But what do I know? I'm just a fan of 25, 30 years here. What do I know?
well, it's like you talked about. I believe it was last week or the week before. Why does the heel need the cool music? You're supposed to hate the heel, not cheer the
Yeah,
heel.
yeah.
I can't explain it. I don't know.
Anyway, next on the Raw roster is Bobby Lashley. Here's a guy that, man, he can be believable. He looks like $1 million, and he in NXT in TNA he's huge and
Hmm.
world champion, and he's an ass kicker, and you believe him, and it's come back to Monday Night Raw, and he doesn't beat anybody, right?
No, you had. Well, that's not true. He beat Rusev, so I guess there's something. Um, but even when he had Leo
But
Rush,
who
you had
doesn't beat Rusev? I mean, obviously nobody beats him now because he's not with the company anymore.
exactly.
But still, like I mean, there's another guy, Rusev. He was super mad over, and then hey, let's put him up against John Cena and have him lose to John Cena week in and week out, and then we'll throw him into a love triangle thing with Dolph Ziggler, and yeah, well, guess what? His star is put out.
Look, you talked about the tide being raised. Remember, Aiden English was part of that act, and people were cheering for him. He had singles matches and had sustainable, hearable crowd support because he was associated with Rusev. You know what? It can happen. Just as a stink can get on somebody, so can the rub. It's a real thing. But no, it's okay. We didn't plan for this, so we can't have that.
Yeah.
It's not what we want. We know what you want better than you do.
Yeah. Next up, we've got Booker T. He's a commentator. Not even going to touch on him. Same. Brock Lesnar's not there. Cedric Alexander, is he even there?
You know what? It looked like at one point they might. He is there. He took the pin. I think it was last week. I thought they might move him in with MVP's group, but not yet. They actually moved Shelton Benjamin into the group.
Yeah, he's another really great talent. I mean, I don't know how well he can talk, but man, you put him in the ring and he can have some good matches with just about anybody.
I guess they just don't see it behind the scenes.
Yeah. Next up is Charlotte Flair. She's off having her boobs done again. Well, it's the truth. She put it out on Twitter. So why keep anything personal? Let's go throw it out on Twitter. So just in case you were wondering, I'm getting my boobs fixed.
It is. Don't worry, boys and girls. Not a HIPAA violation. She shared that information. We're good.
Yeah. So next, we got a backstage interviewer, Charlie Caruso, and then we have David Otunga. I didn't even know he was still worked there. I mean, obviously they haven't released him, but does he do anything? Is he a commentator or anything?
Maybe he's appearing on the pregame shows. I don't know. I don't really see much of him.
Yeah. Next up is your favorite and mine, Dolph Ziggler.
By the way, got a title rematch. Not this week, but a week ago, and still
couldn't get. No, it wasn't for the title, I believe. Right? Didn't they?
Well,
all of a sudden just take that out.
Well, they gave McIntyre the opportunity to pick the stipulation. And by the way, since we talked about Extreme Rules earlier, he couldn't beat Drew McIntyre changing the rules every 5 seconds, where he could do
in a
extreme
match
things.
that he decided the rules. He still couldn't beat him.
Right. Who's booking this crap?
Vince Russo has nothing to do with it. And then we have Eric and Ivar of the Viking Experience, or whatever the hell they call them this week. And we'll just leave that one alone.
I know that's a tough one for you. They got.
I mean, seriously, like these two are two big bruisers who go out there and they move like guys who are a good 150 pounds lighter than them, and we don't have anything for them.
Do we put him in with ninjas? What else do you want? They had to fight alongside the Street Profits.
No, you're gonna fight with a bowling ball. Like stupid. Humberto Carrillo. Do they do anything with him?
No, he's fallen off to the side, unfortunately. Jason
Jordan, he's injured, right?
I didn't think he was ever coming back based on his injury. I could be wrong, but you know what? Hurts a lot less not taking bumps. Good for you, Jason. Good for you.
Jerry Lawler, he's commentating, right?
He is commentating, yes.
Jinder Mahal, is he even there right now?
I thought he got hurt again.
He's probably lucky if he did.
Right.
JoJo, is she a ring announcer?
She is the ring announcer.
Yeah.
By the way, just to tie all this together with you, we had mentioned Akira Tozawa. The last match Jinder Mahal had on Raw was a pinfall victory over Akira Tozawa back at the end of April, and then a month later he went. He had surgery, so on his knee.
Okay.
So lucky him.
Yeah. Seriously, lucky him. He's not being not featured every week.
Yeah.
Kevin Owens. Are they doing much with him? I know he had the match at WrestleMania with Seth.
He's there. He's around, but he hasn't been on Raw the last couple of weeks. So I don't know if that's.
And there's a guy. He's got all the talent in the world. He's a heck of a talker. He can wrestle with anybody.
Well, as far as I know, he was written into the show a couple of weeks ago, and they just re-scripted the show and didn't use him.
Because why not?
I mean, it's not like we need anybody over to be on the show. I mean, remember, dude, it's not the people, it's the company that's over.
Mm-hmm. It's the brand.
Well, brand supremacy. I want to be careful in saying it this way, but if you grew up in the late 70s, early 80s, you remember the show The Dukes of Hazzard. And setting the flag and things aside, I think we have agreement on what that represents and the issues with it. But when Bo and Luke, or the actors that played them, walked away, they were told, it's the car that's the star of the show. Turns out that wasn't the case.
Yeah, Coy and Vance didn't stand up to Bo and Luke.
Oh, you knew Coy and Vance. You're a good man.
Of course I did. I watched that show every week.
I did the same thing, and I'm still bitter Coy and Vance didn't get a better send-off. They should have told Coy before he tried to climb in the window the doors worked. I thought that was insulting to him, but in that last episode. But the point is, it wasn't the car that was the star of the show. It was the actors, and you put it all together, there's your success. And by the way, it never regained its success after that. It just kind of trudged along a couple of seasons, and it was gone. It's not the brand. It's the people.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, come on, man. It's not that hard. Or it shouldn't be this hard. But we don't need Kevin. We just rewrite the show and send him home.
Yeah.
Okay.
Lana.
I don't think she's doing anything.
Last I saw her, she was with Bobby Lashley and screwed up his title match at WrestleMania. Or it wasn't WrestleMania.
No, it was the pay-per-view after that when she screwed everything up.
Yeah.
Was it Backlash?
That was my guess. It was Backlash.
Yeah. No, as far as I know, she hasn't done anything.
Mm-hmm. How about Liv Morgan? They
Nope.
using her at all?
Nope, not that I'm aware of.
And I'm a big fan of her, man. I like Liv Morgan. I think she's a good looking girl. I think she's a decent wrestler. You know, she's not great, but she holds her own.
She does, and she was featured in a little bit there this year. They did put her in a match with Natalia this year. She lost it. But she did get a rematch on the WrestleMania pre-show, and she did win that.
That's where you want to be featured on the WrestleMania pre-show.
I'm just telling you.
Yeah, ask Daniel Bryan about that.
You're scarring me deeply tonight, Mark. Deeply.
About Mike Rome, who's he? Is he like a backstage interviewer or?
Yeah, he's a backstage guy.
All right.
Not to be confused
Montez
with Jim
Ford.
Rome.
Yeah. Montez Ford. We talked about the Street Profits. Mr. McMahon hasn't been on the show in quite some time. It'd almost be a good idea if he was, then he wouldn't be doing everything in the back,
By the way, just to let you know, Mike Rome is a one-time 24/7 champion.
Great.
He won it at a house show in Pittsburgh.
I don't even know what to say to that. Like, and he's an interviewer?
He is, yeah.
So why is there a backstage interviewer at a house show?
I guess he was supposed to announce him, or I guess one of the Singh brothers had won the belt from R-Truth early on. Mm-hmm. And I guess he wanted him to announce him as the new champion. Instead, he rolled him up and got the pinfall.
Oh.
But, the 24/7...
That's good that an athlete gets beaten by a guy wearing a suit, right?
Well, just remember, the roll-up is the most devastating finisher and the most common finisher in the 24/7 division.
Yeah, nobody can get out of that.
No one can. In fact, he would be rolled up like 15 seconds after he won the belt to lose the belt back to one of the Singh brothers. So there you go. Mike Rome, former champion, WWE.
How about Murphy?
He took a guy's. Yeah,
he's still tagging with Gunner.
No, he's moved on actually.
Is this a different Murphy?
This is a different Murphy. I hate to be the one to tell you. This is the one that was in NXT. Came up to the roster, was having these really great matches with like Roman Reigns. Had a really good feud with Cedric Alexander over the Cruiserweight title. I don't know if you remember that or not.
I do remember that.
Now he's with Seth Rollins and apparently maybe took Aleister Black's eye on Monday Night Raw. Maybe.
Good storytelling there, pal.
Sadly, I probably oversold it.
Yeah.
I do love me some Natalya. She's a fashion. She's a fashionista. I do appreciate that.
I think she's fantastic. I think she's a great wrestler. I think she's a decent talker, and she's just a good personality, and she's also a Hart family member. So. Yeah, I got nothing but love for the pink and black,
Absolutely. When she's not,
Canadian royalty.
Well, there was that time with the flatulence thing, but we move on.
Don't remind me of that.
Poor Mark. This is turned into torture Mark night. I'm sorry.
How about Nia Jax?
She did return.
She hurt anybody yet?
You know what? She could hurt me, and that would be okay. It's okay. My wife's in the next room. Actually, I believe she.
Ears.
Yeah, I was just gonna say you don't hear any flesh being smacked here as I get hurt. No, I guess she was fined for her actions on Monday Night Raw, allegedly.
Stiff fine, huh? They levied a stiff fine on her.
They did. She felt a referee cost her the Raw Women's title, so she kind of beat up some people.
You can't put your hands on a WWE official.
Well, I hate to say it, but I don't know if you follow her Twitter account, but she gave the double bird flip in her response to being fined. I thought that was very cutting edge. That was very late 1998. If you go and find the picture, something about "Hey, find this."
Oh.
So yes, looks like she's going to enter a feud with Shayna Baszler. Looks like where they're going with that. Could be interesting.
So Shayna's back.
For now, yes.
Shayna disappeared, didn't she, after WrestleMania?
She did, but they brought her back 2 weeks ago.
Oh. Oh, that's right. Yeah. She put everybody on notice, right?
Exactly. And then Nia Jax came out, and they had issues.
Oh, so it's like, oh, everybody, you're all on notice because I'm back. Well, Nia Jax, well, I'm back too. Don't forget about me.
I'll outback you. What? Okay. All right.
That's my gimmick now.
Well, when Shayna starts breaking people's faces, we'll have something.
Yeah. Hashtag facebreaker.
That's right.
Paul Heyman.
Who?
I guess he's just strictly an advocate now, right?
He did a great job. That's all I'm going to say when asked that question.
He did a great job booking. So let's just fire him.
Exactly.
Peyton Royce. We covered the Iconics.
Mm-hmm.
R-Truth, there's a guy, I mean, that's a guy who's really entertaining. He's out there on a weekly basis, but do you really believe that he's like half the wrestler that he actually is?
Well, no, because
the way they portray him.
Exactly, no. And I hate to say this, but you know what? Good for him for finding the spot and holding it.
Sure.
Because I want to say he's pushing 50. I know he's in his late 40s, so
that's an ongoing joke,
You know, at least he's got a spot. So I'll give him that.
Yeah, Ron Killings is 48 years old, born January 19th, 1972.
All right. Well, see, I knew I was close there. So, yeah, I wouldn't say he's a new star or a new overstar, no.
No, but he's entertaining as all hell, I mean... But again, he's a really good wrestler that they don't let wrestle. He constantly is in the 24/7 title picture, and it's just throwaway, silly matches that aren't even matches.
Exactly, and he's kind of adapted to that because he's a really talented guy. I thought his stuff with Drake Maverick was fantastic. Loved that.
Haven't seen
stuff.
that.
That's right.
Over the 24/7 title. Yes, I did see some of that.
I know comedy's not everybody's thinking wrestling, but that was comedy gold as far as wrestling goes. It's tremendous. Even my wife, who is not a huge wrestling fan, had to watch week after week, check the clips out, just to see what they would do next. So, all right, who else we got?
Randy Orton.
There's
not much you can say about Randy Orton. That the dude's been there forever, and he's as good as they come in WWE right now. I love his wrestling. I love his matches. I think his persona is fantastic. Is he a little long in the tooth? Maybe, but he's still putting on good matches with just about everybody.
Well, the question comes though: who do you put in his place? There's nobody. There's nobody
on this list that they've done anything good with.
No, and now listening to it, it's so depressing that all of a sudden Dolph Ziggler doesn't look so bad after because really, who else do they have to eat time? Because that's really what we're talking about doing. Eat up some time until we go ahead.
I'm looking over we're up to the R's here. Just to skip ahead, you got Rey Mysterio. He's not a spring chick.
Cyclops.
Yeah. Razor is out injured. Ricochet, that they've got him wrestling on main event. Riddick Moss, who?
I didn't know he was still around.
Moss since
well, he was a 24/7 champion at one point.
Yeah, and then after that, they buried him, and he doesn't do anything now, right?
Nope.
Robert Roode. The glorious Bobby Roode, former NXT champion, we talked about him on here. This is a guy who for his time down in TNA. You know, he was a tag team guy. Then they pushed him with the world title, and I always looked at him and was like, you know, like he's a good wrestler. I was never a huge fan of his promos. He liked to talk. There was no doubt about that. I was never really a huge fan of his promos. I didn't really think that he had it on the mic. There was just something missing with him. And when he came to WWE and he was down in NXT and he was given that glorious gimmick, yeah, no, they found it. You know, they found what TNA missed, and he was on top, and he was a fantastic NXT champion, great heel. I can't say enough good stuff about the guy when he was down there. And then they put him up to SmackDown. They bury him. He's on Raw now. Why they moved him from SmackDown to Raw is beyond me. Other than, you know, maybe they got tired of just not using him on SmackDown properly. So let's put him on the Raw so that we can not use him properly over there too. I don't understand it. Bobby Roode's another guy who he could be one of those guys that they need to make a big star out of, but no, they've killed him.
Mm-hmm.
Ruby Riott, she's back. I don't know what she's doing, but I don't think that she gets taken seriously, right?
No, her and Liv Morgan are on the outs right now.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously, you know, if she's wrestling Liv Morgan, then she doesn't have anything to do with Bayley or Sasha or anybody with a title, right?
No. It's just so weird the way they do it week to week. It's the same 10, 11 people. Every once in a while, they'll throw in a different person. Then in some cases, they'll have people who will be on for a couple of weeks, and all of a sudden they mysteriously disappear.
Yeah.
Make your own conclusions.
But
yeah.
I mean, here's a guy who can kick anybody's ass. You know, Samoa Joe. Oh, he's a commentator now, so I guess we're not getting good matches out of him anymore.
Well, you got to remember Samoa Joe. You know, at one time they were feuding with Seth Rollins' group. When Buddy Murphy they were just killing Aleister Black right there in front of Samoa Joe. He didn't lift a finger. I mean, come on, you have one of the baddest men on the planet. He's just going to stand there and watch a guy get his eye taken?
Yeah.
Or see Dominic, Rey Mysterio's son, get beat up? He's just going to stand there and watch it? Okay.
Yeah.
And I know they probably didn't think about it.
Thing, Dominic, Rey Mysterio's son, like, dude, I'm sorry, the dude looks like Walter. You know, like, like he's the size of Walter. What, like? I don't know. I look at him and I see Seth Rollins beating up his father. Like, why the hell isn't he getting in there and getting physical with him? Because he could probably beat the hell out of Rollins.
He laid some serious marks on his back this week with the Singapore cane or the kendo stick, whatever you prefer. Oh yeah, Rollins took some stiff shots.
Rollins took the shots?
Yes, Dominic hit Seth Rollins with the kendo stick multiple times and left some really massive welts and bruises. Yes, sir.
Okay, well, at least he's doing something. You know, I mean, they have them. I see all these clips of him being there at ringside with Ray. It's like, why are you there?
Mm-hmm. Well, he came out to fight this week.
Okay.
So at least they did something with it.
He's a big dude. Let's use him. Instead of just having him just cower there like he's a child, which he's not anymore.
I don't really understand, though, because, you know, if Eddie Guerrero was his dad, why is he so tall? Anyway, I don't know. That'd be on the list of really bad storylines.
Yeah. I'm your poppy.
I know. Dominic. Ray is not your
Seth
father.
Rollins. Yeah.
He is the Monday Night Messiah.
Yeah, I hate that Monday Night Messiah bullshit.
No.
Because there's no way to, you know... You want to make people, like, uncomfortable? Let's bring religion into the thing, you know?
Well, you know, you had Raw is Jericho. You had the Ayatollah of Rock. All the things that were cute, but they weren't overtly offensive to those who take their religion or spirituality, you know, sincerely. Got to be careful with that.
Mm-hmm. Shayna Baszler, you said she's back now. That's good. I'm happy for her. But again, they killed her at WrestleMania. Shelton Benjamin.
Like I said, he's with Lashley and MVP now.
Mm-hmm. And we got a bunch of people who don't wrestle. You know, Stephanie McMahon, Triple H, Titus O'Neil. Does he wrestle, or is he just like
I think he's only allowed to compete. Yeah, I think he's only allowed to compete in battle royals and represent the company in some of their initiatives, which again he does a great job with.
Yeah, makes weird faces at WrestleMania, right?
Well, to be fair, what kind of face would you make after what you just saw? That was probably the closest thing to a shoot on WWE programming.
Yeah,
it's like I don't know what do I do with that? I don't know.
Yeah. Vic Joseph, he's an interviewer, I guess, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, he's a commentator, right?
Yeah, but they pulled him back from that though. Remember, he was going to be the voice of Raw, but I
guess that didn't work out so well for him.
No, it didn't. You know, I guess Vince just wasn't a fan.
And then Zelina Vega, who's a manager. And a pretty decent wrestler, but, you know, they don't use her for that.
You know what? I'm always happy to see Zelina Vega on my TV.
I am too. Don't get me wrong. I'm happy to see her on there. I think that she's a really good talent. I think she's a fantastic talker, you know, but at the same time, it's just like they're not featuring her, you know. I think that she was what Andrade Cien Almas was missing in NXT. You know, when they paired the two of them together, that was gold. I mean, that to me made Andrade mean something, and he wasn't just this guy wearing suspenders that comes out and didn't he was missing that, you know. And when they paired the two of them together, like I said, it's gold, Jerry, gold. It worked.
By the way, just to close up the loop here, you asked about Vic Joseph. Yeah, he's not on Raw or SmackDown, but he did make his triumphant return to 205 Live a couple weeks ago.
Oh,
alongside Drew Gulak. I'm sorry.
That's right. Gulak re-upped with the company, right?
He did. Yes, he did indeed.
Good.
So they're now the broadcasters for 205 Live.
Who? Drew Gulak?
Vic Joseph and Drew Gulak, yeah.
You mean Drew Gulak is not wrestling?
I don't think he's wrestled since he re-signed.
He's one of the best wrestlers that they have on their roster, and they put him in behind a commentary table. Is he injured or something?
He hasn't wrestled. Okay, so the last thing I saw of him, he wrestled AJ Styles for the Intercontinental title, but Styles beat him, and that was
a fantastic match.
That is the last time I've seen him compete. I don't think he's competed since then.
That's just so unbelievable to me. You know, I mean they had the storyline with Daniel Bryan where they were wrestling and then they became friends, and that's great. You know, I mean those two are probably two of the most technically gifted professional wrestlers on their roster. And here you go and throw them behind a commentary table. Why? There's a great use of talent there.
I wish I had an answer, but I don't.
It's just, you know, it's complete and utter mismanagement from the top on down. It really is. It's a shame. It really is. I don't know what else to say.
You know what? It is what it is, man. This is how WWE does.
Yeah, this is WWE in 2020.
Well, let me give you one more thing that is so WWE 2020.
Oh no.
Yes, this is some breaking news. It broke tonight while we were recording. WWE announced that their Payback pay-per-view will occur exactly 7 days after WWE SummerSlam.
How do they build a card that quickly?
This is WWE, pal. They put smiles on people's faces. They can build a card.
I mean, I guess it's just going to be all rematches from SummerSlam.
Probably. Or there's going to be some angle that they'll try and pay off, but I would imagine you'll see a lot of rematches.
Great. In case you didn't see enough of it the one night, come on back in a week and we'll show it to you again. And then we'll also show it to you like in between. If you watch Monday Night Raw or SmackDown. So if you don't get enough of Drew McIntyre taking on Randy Orton, we'll give them to you 3 times in 1 week.
All right, I'm going to give you an angle for that one. I see Randy Orton beating Drew McIntyre and laying him out, and somebody coming out to start a feud. What do you think? I could see something
just to
like
get
that.
To get the title off of McIntyre, and then shoot Orton off into another direction, so that McIntyre is away from the title.
I wouldn't be shocked.
That's fantastic. That's good booking right there, pal.
It's good shit. I think we established that.
Yeah.
But anyways, so that's breaking news. I knew you'd want to know.
Great.
Well, I see I've totally ruined your weekend now with this information.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I watch those pay-per-views with a grain of salt anyway. It's not. If I fall asleep watching it, it's no skin off my back. It's just whatever it is. It's not like, I have to watch this because I'm going to watch Monday Night Raw and see how this is followed up with tomorrow night. Those days are long past these days. I haven't thought that way in years. I mean, will I think that way about the NXT Takeover 30? Absolutely. Do I need to watch NXT Takeover 30 before NXT the following week? Absolutely. But
sure.
Do I need to do that for Raw or SmackDown? And I which I don't even watch anyway. No.
Well, I didn't know how I would do this, Mark, but I got to do it to you.
Mm-hmm.
You asked if Drew Gulak had wrestled since he signed his contract. He had not until tonight, and this is a spoiler. If you've not watched SmackDown, go ahead and fast forward a little bit. I'll give you a 5-second countdown, a 5-second pause, if you will.
Do I want to know?
No. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You should have fast forwarded it if you didn't want to be spoiled. Drew Gulak would face good friend of the show, Baron Corbin, tonight.
Hey, where's Waldo?
That's right. And you guessed it, Drew did not go over.
Of course not. Why should he?
Well, here's the kicker. Matt Riddle came out to distract Baron Corbin, and Drew Gulak still didn't beat him.
Great.
So Matt Riddle...
such good shit.
Well, Matt Riddle, who you can hear his episode here in the archives of Hey Yo Radio, lost his first match on the main roster a couple weeks ago. It was a really good match, don't get me wrong.
Who did he lose to?
AJ Styles.
Oh, okay. Well, that's AJ. I mean, AJ's a top talent. If you lose to AJ, it's not. It's not like losing to Dolph Ziggler.
He is the champ that runs the camp. Even though it's only the Intercontinental title, I still, we don't know what's become of the other title because, well, it was in the swamp somewhere. We don't know. But yeah, so now he's, I guess, going to enter a feud with Baron Corbin. Okay.
Great.
Okay. I see they're trying to kill me. That's what they're trying to do.
I mean, we know from last week's episode that, Baron Corbin can wrestle a good match. And I'm sure Drew Gulak can get an awesome match out of him, but will they do that on the main roster? Probably not.
Probably not.
I don't know.
Oh, just one other thing. Be on the lookout for on SmackDown this week. If you want to find the clips, this is for Mark. They do address the Alexa
I'm sure
Bliss
I'm going to be
lookalike.
running out and finding these clips.
Please don't hurt yourself moving too quickly. They do address the Alexa Bliss thing from the SWAT match, the Alexa Bliss lookalike.
Oh.
Yeah. There may be a furtherance of that.
Okay.
I knew you'd be excited.
So, I'm guessing it's Sister Abigail?
We don't know. We just know that Alexa Bliss may or may not be intimidated / attacked by the Fiend. So, looks like we might be heading that direction.
Awesome.
This will be great.
Yeah, I think I've already gone on record here. The Fiend is garbage. I hate that gimmick. It's just garbage. I love Bray Wyatt. I think that the guy is awesome. I think he's very entertaining. This gimmick sucks.
Not even with 5 Feet of Fury? It's not enough?
No. Yeah, I mean, that mask is pretty awesome looking. I'll give him that. But, yeah, no, I mean, this gimmick is terrible. It's just such a terrible gimmick.
Well, and with that, for those who've been wanting to hear us do something a little bit more current, well, you got it tonight.
Yeah, this is why we don't do these.
Because I care about my friend Mark, I try not to do this to him.
Yeah. Yeah, so next week, we will definitely be back to the old style, looking at Bailey, so I'm looking forward to that.
What if something big happens down at the Wyatt complex in the compound? Are we going to cover it?
You really think something big is going to happen?
Well, I mean, when you put it like that, no. Thank you for tethering me back to reality. I appreciate that.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's Vince says that they need to make more, they need more new stars. Well, this is your job. Your job is to go and make stars. You have a roster full of people who have what it takes to be big stars. You just don't use them properly, and you don't know what you're doing anymore.
Yeah, they don't even pretend anymore.
It's time to hand over the reins to someone who knows how to do what you used to do, because you can't do it anymore.
I can't say it any better than that.
Yeah.
Was there anything else you wanted to cover this week? Do you feel like you've had your
catharsis?
catharsis?
For me, I know you usually like to end it on a much more happier terms, so I'll leave that up to you if you can come up with something.
I would really like to end it on a happier note. So I'll say it like this. Before we started recording tonight, I've had mixed feelings about the New York Yankees through my life. I grew up a Braves fan, and so there are certain years that Mark and I just couldn't have been friends. There's a
1996 and 1999.
I'll dump the call, so help me.
I remember those years very vividly. Fortunately,
the wind was blowing out for Jim Leyritz. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Yeah, that's it.
That's all I'm going to say. But I will say this. You told me that John Sterling.
I'm so going to love the closing music this week.
Is 82 years old. And, for anybody who puts in that type of passion for that long in time, that made me feel good. So that's my positive encouragement. Way to go, John Sterling. 82, still announcing Yankees games. But I can't forgive those couple of years Mark talked about. So it's a mixed, I'm feeling good. It's mixed. Although I know what music is coming. That's okay. That was my segue into it.
Yeah. All right. So, and one more thing. Yankees had their home opener tonight. A victory over the Boston Red Sox. Amen to that. And tonight the national anthem was sung by Susan Waldman, which is just awesome. She's in her 70s and a broadcaster for the Yankees, and she did a fantastic job. Very happy for her.
All right, I'm gonna give it to you because I'm your friend. How do you think it sounded after the last out of the game? What do you think was said?
Yankees win. The Yankees win. Is that what you were looking for?
You know what? If I weren't your friend, man, that's all I'm gonna say. But I'm giving it to you. Giving it to you. No, it's been good. It's been good to get some of the stuff off our chest, just kind of ramble and catch up a little bit with everybody. So thank you to everyone for listening.
I figure we'll probably do one or two of these from time to time. This was fun. Just going right off the top of my head. I didn't have any kind of script or anything to follow this week. Just a
little free flowing, never hurt anybody.
Yeah. So I guess that's all that we've got for this week, unless you wanted to say anything.
Nope.
Else.
That's all I have.
All right. So we'll be back next week, same time, same place, when I promise we'll take a look at our next NXT alum, Bailey. So for Scott Tyson, I am Mark Weiss, thanking all of you for your support. Hey Yo Radio is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The songs used throughout the show are properties of their respective copyright holders.